Welcome to another Ecological Niches video. Today is going to be part 2 of the Skipper Bay Trail videos. If you missed part 1 and want to hear more discussion, particularly that video is about the native species that live in the area and includes pictures and more conversation about the mammals that live there, then click the link that's shown above. If you want to see more, please subscribe, like the video, we're trying to grow. Today's video is particularly about the migratory species found here on Skipper Bay Trail. Once again, joining me is the other voice of Ecological Niches and is presented as an interview, as the other voice has been to the trail, as stated in the first video, over 400 times, at least he's recorded, over the past about 10 years.
Pictures we have here looking at are of migratory birds mostly. Why do these birds migrate here to Skipper Bay?
Well, like all birds, they go where there's resources and where there's some food and shelter, the things that they need.
So what is specific about this area of Skipper Bay by Utah Lake? What resources are here that they're looking for?
Mainly food and shelter. In the springtime and in the fall, there's a lot of feed for them on the edge of the lake and in the field it's adjacent to it. And the trail runs right between the two of them.
So how far do some of these migrating birds travel to find these resources?
Probably the furthest is like South America, as far away as Peru.
So what's that, like a few thousand miles?
At least. And then there's some that go as far north as the Arctic Circle.
So they span the whole northwestern, you can say.
The whole Western Hemisphere.
Yeah. One of the pictures you have here is an in-flight fight between a peregrine falcon and a bald eagle. What's the story there?
Well, this was a wintertime picture, and it's been pretty amazing to go out there in the wintertime and see birds that migrate here for the winter, like the bald eagle. The peregrine had a kill out on the ice, and it was probably a duck, and the bald eagle was trying to steal it. And the peregrines were having none of it, and they did chase the bald eagle off and save their prey.
So is it rare to see things like that, or is it common to see birds of prey and things of that nature?
There's birds of prey out there almost every trip. Red-tailed hawk being the most common, and then Cooper's hawks, and then harriers.
So I've noticed that the trail's a little bit shorter now. Why is that?
Well, they're trying to do what they call a reclamation project down there. They want to restore the delta of the Provo River to where it was, I guess, 100 years ago, 150 years ago. That area was where the Provo River used to dump into. And they're doing specifically for the June sucker, and they have money for the June sucker because it's an endangered species. And their hope is that they'll restore the delta area, and the June sucker will have someplace to spawn. But hopefully, when they do it right and it's done and they let it go wild, it'll be a great boon to the other wildlife, migratory and the permanent residents.
So for one fish, right, the June sucker, they're spending how much money probably? Who knows?
It's several million, I'm sure. They've had backhoes in there, and they had to build roads to get through there on logs and trucks hauling muck, and they're still not done. They're getting close, though.
So when we first talked about doing this video, you brought up a concern that you just didn't want people to know where it was because there'd be more people down there. Why is an increased number of visitors good and bad?
Well, the exposure is good. I mean, education is always good to help people know what's down there and what's important. But it can be bad if people don't stay out and give the wildlife their space. If they stress out the wildlife, then there's no reason for them to come to the resources. because the resources won't do them any good.
What does stressing out wildlife look like? What have you seen people do maybe on the trail or somewhere else that would be doing that?
Well, when the animals are nesting especially, they're resting and they're nesting and people disturb them off of their nests, or, without any knowledge of what they're doing, they trample through the reeds and things like that, knock nests off of the branches, and there's not a lot of that down there. It's occasional, but where we go, wildlife often doesn't.
Right. Especially when we're being loud or noisy, and you're not going to see anything. If you've ever gone out in the wild and walked, that's what I've noticed at least. Right, when I walk with my children who are noisy, I don't see nearly as much when I walk just by myself in the quiet.
And we mentioned the mammals down there, and the mammals are much more sensitive to that than the birds. The birds are in the trees, and they're often not affected, and they know that. They realize that they're out of reach. And we don't have a lot of people down there with guns shooting, except at some of the waterfowl. And so you can go down there with your family, walk along, and there'll be a bird pecking on a branch, 15, 20 feet away, and it fairly much ignores you unless you start, doing things like throwing sticks or things like that might cause it stress. Right.
One of the things I've noticed when I've gone down there is that because it's so close to the airport, there's always planes or helicopters. You can probably tell from the audio that I interlay in these videos of Skipper Bay. What do you think that does to the wildlife?
Well, there's no doubt that it disturbs the wildlife to a certain degree. You have things like the flight path goes nearly right over Skipper Bay. That's a concern for pilots and birds. The birds get in the way of the planes and the planes hit the birds possibly. It's no good. You have noisy planes going over. The birds are trying to sing and set up territories and can't hear. There's frogs down there calling to each other and breeding in the ponds, the diurnal ponds. It's bound to have some impact.
Somebody that was out there counting birds for the project, and a big concern of the airport was the increase of risk because there's might be more birds after the reclamation project of hitting planes on their way in. But to my knowledge, it's never happened in Provo or even had close incidents that I've heard of.
If it has, I haven't heard of them either. It's a potential problem. You've got geese and ducks, and they would not be good if they got sucked into an engine.
Right, that's for sure.
Hey, you made it to the end of the video. That means you must like it. If you wouldn't mind liking the video and subscribing so you can catch future content, we'd appreciate it. And if you would share it with other people that you think would be interested, that would be awesome too. But anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.